There is a man in his garage right now. It is Saturday morning. A brand new lawnmower costs $60. It is sitting on a shelf, 10 minutes away. He has been in this garage for 4 Saturdays. His knuckles are scraped. There's grease under his fingernails that will not fully wash out. His wife suggested, quietly, twice, that they just buy the new one. He heard her. He is not buying the new one. And here is what nobody understands. This is not stubbornness. This is not cheapness. This is not even really about the lawnmower. Something far older, far deeper, and far more psychologically fascinating is operating underneath this moment. Today, Psyche Archive is going to show you exactly what it is. And by the end of this video, you will never look at a repaired object the same way again. To understand why some people fix instead of replace, you cannot start with the individual. You have to go back further, much further. The generation that first hardwired this behavior lived through 2 of the most brutal events in modern history, the Great Depression, then World War II. These were not textbook events. They were the texture of daily life. Bread lines, ration books, shoes resold 4 times before being discarded. Children who grew up in that world learned something that went far deeper than thrift. They learned that objects were not casual, that resources could disappear overnight, that the correct response to a broken thing was not to throw it away, but to understand it well enough to bring it back. And here is the critical part. That lesson did not stay in the 1930s. It was passed down. Through kitchens, through garages, through the particular way a father handed a son a wrench without saying much. The behavior was transferred not through words, but through watching. Now here is where psychology reveals something that most people completely miss. Everyone assumes the person repairing something is motivated by saving money. Sometimes yes, but watch closely and you will see something else entirely. The repair is not about the object. It is about the person doing the repairing. Think about what life looked like in the late 1950s suburban landscape. Identical houses, long commutes, work becoming more abstract, more office, more paperwork, more tasks whose outcomes were impossible to measure. A man who spent 8 hours in a fluorescent-lit building moving numbers from one column to another could come home, pick up a wrench, replace a section of copper pipe, and at the end of 90 minutes, the water ran again. He had done something real, something visible, something that could not be questioned. Psychologists call this self-efficacy, the felt sense that your actions produce real outcomes in the world. And repair is one of the oldest ways humans have ever found to restore that feeling. But here is what makes it truly fascinating. This behavior intensifies under stress. The person under financial pressure, professional uncertainty, personal loss, they become the most determined repairers. They can't control their job. They can't control the economy. They can't control what is falling apart in other areas of their life, but they can strip this carburetor down to its components and rebuild it. And so they do, for hours, on a Saturday morning, in a garage, while a $60 lawnmower sits on a shelf 10 minutes away. But there's a further layer here, one that almost never gets discussed. The act of repairing something instead of replacing it is at a deep level a form of loyalty. It is a statement about what things mean. People who fix rather than replace are operating inside a worldview where abandonment of objects, of relationships, of commitments carries a moral weight that others simply do not feel as strongly. Watch how these same people behave in their relationships. They are the ones who stay, who try harder, who return to a difficult conversation 3, 4, 5 times, not because they cannot walk away, but because their internal architecture frames walking away as the option of absolute last resort. They apply the exact same logic. The thing is broken, the correct response is to understand why and to fix it. This can be a profound strength, but it can also become a trap, because not everything broken should be repaired. Some systems are past saving. Some relationships are genuinely beyond restoration. Some lawnmowers should just be replaced. But people with this psychology often cannot reach that conclusion until they've exhausted every single alternative.
sometimes long past the point when everyone else has already let go. Here's something important that history rarely teaches. The consumer culture that rose through the 1960s and accelerated through the 1980s was built in direct opposition to this psychology. Planned obsolescence, the deliberate design of products to fail and require replacement, was not a natural law, it was an economic strategy. And the advertising of that era specifically worked to reframe repair as embarrassing. Old things were associated with poverty, with failure to keep up, with being left behind. New things were aspirational. The implicit message was brutal and clear. Holding on to something broken means you can't afford better. Some people absorbed that message entirely. Others rejected it, consciously or not, and kept walking out to their garages on Saturday mornings. That tension is still alive today in hardware stores, in repair cafes, in YouTube tutorials watched by millions who are convinced they can fix the thing before buying a replacement. The modern right to repair movement is not simply an environmental trend. It is a psychological revolt against 40 years of being told that replacement is progress. So what's really happening in that garage on Saturday morning? The man is not refusing to buy a new lawnmower because he can't afford one. He is refusing to believe that what he has is not worth saving. At its core, the fix-not-replace psychology is a specific relationship with meaning, a belief, deep, mostly unconscious, that the history inside an object, the hours, the repairs, the memory of where it came from, is not something that can be purchased on a shelf for $60. That belief was forged in hardship, passed down through generations who learned that resources were finite, that effort was honorable, and that the capacity to restore something broken was one of the most reliable forms of human dignity available. The things people choose to fix and the things they choose to replace tell you almost everything about what they've been taught to believe is worth keeping. So here's the question worth sitting with tonight. What are you still trying to fix in your own life? And what have you already quietly decided to replace? This has been Psyche Archive. If someone came to mind while watching this video, a person who always fixes rather than replaces, tag them below. They will know exactly what this video is about, and they will never admit that it took them 4 Saturdays to fix a lawnmower.